Okay, so this is a debunking video of MatPat, or the game theorist's latest video, where he makes an historical analysis based on the game For Honor. And I want to start out that I have nothing against MatPat. I haven't seen that many of his videos, but the ones I have seen are good. The problem I have with this video is, well, it's kind of the parameters that he sets out when he's doing this analysis. He's saying that this is an historical analysis. In this video, I am going to go through the Viking part, because I think that's the part of the video that is the most based on misconceptions. And being Scandinavian, I think you can say that I have some cultural bias towards them as well.
Maybe the game is balanced, but history wasn't. So it got my theorist brain a-turnin'. Game mechanics aside, when it comes down to the nitty-gritty, who would reign supreme in an actual medieval battle royale? Savage Vikings, knights in shining armor, or the tenacious Japanese samurai?
Well, I do agree that history is not balanced. But I think that the main keyword here should be context. Here we also see the misrepresentation of Viking culture as some kind of barbaric culture that is one part Klingon and one part Conan the Barbarian. This is simply not true. The Vikings were people like everyone else. They had mothers, fathers who loved their children, and they had friends, they had enemies like any other human. This comes mainly from what I understand it as how Christians portrayed the Vikings. And this was, of course, after the Vikings started to raid the Christians.
So in an attempt to make a fair comparison all around, you have to take into consideration time period. And to For Honor's credit, the game selected 3 types of warriors that were active in the world at the same time. When you draw a Venn diagram of all the time periods samurai, Viking, and knights were active, you get one major area of overlap, the 11th century, the year 1000.
This is the first point where this whole video just breaks down. He is very specific. The 11th century. And yet he still jumps all over. He goes to like the 9th century, and then it goes to like the 16th century for the samurais. And if you're going to choose a century, stick to it. Also, the 11th century is kind of after the heyday of the Vikings. The Viking age is already in decline by this stage. The Vikings had lost territory in England, and the Vikings who settled in northern France became their own culture, the Normans. This is not the time for the stereotypical Viking that you think about.
Vikings come from Scandinavia, and the fact that Vikings had to live in this frozen nightmare without electric blankets and central heating should be enough credential to give them their badass card. Since they lived in a place where food literally dies immediately, they stayed alive almost entirely by stealing from other people.
This is the second part where the video just falls apart for me. You are now comparing noble samurai to noble knights to every Scandinavian, and Scandinavians did know how to farm. Scandinavia is a big chunk of Europe. There are climates from cold to mild, and during the summer it can be pretty warm here. So this part about Vikings having to raid to survive is not true. Also, I find then the irony that out of these 3 classes, the Vikings are the only ones who knows how to actually farm. The noble knight didn't know how to farm. The noble samurai didn't know how to farm. But Vikings as a culture, they knew how to farm.
Their weapons were generally garbage. Again, that whole frozen tundra thing, with only the most basic of offenses, a bow and a shield on their back, a spear for throwing, and an axe in their belt, or, if they were particularly well off, a sea axe, a sort of short sword knife hybrid that was perfect for up-close encounters. But if they were minimal on the offensive front, they were practically nudists on the defensive front. Vikings, as if going for maximum machismo, were practically nothing for protection from either people or the threat of icicles to the crotch. The wealthiest Vikings wore hardened leather, but most just had quilted fabric, so one good shot from a bow and boom, you're done, son.
Remember, by the year 1000, the Vikings had lived alongside the main continent European cultures for hundreds of years. So the technology is traded, the technology is shared. Even if we go by the theory that Vikings never traded with any other culture, then after hundreds of years of raiding, wouldn't they have gotten some swords, some mail armor, or anything other like that? The Vikings were equipped just as good as the other European cultures. A Viking noble looked almost the same as a European noble. Even the most famous nobles by this time, the Normans, were descended from Vikings. There is no difference between a Viking noble and a European noble when it comes to the equipment for warfare.
Now, to For Honor's credit, the game gets all of this right. One look at the warlords, berserkers, and raiders, and you immediately see light armor, if at all, and rudimentary shields and axes.
Okay, I'm going to stop here now. This makes a lot more sense from a game theory perspective, but certainly not from a historical perspective, I believe. Thank you for making it to the end of this video. And if you like this video, then please remember to show it by pressing the like button, and please consider to subscribe. Farewell.